The clock is now open in Photoshop, and you can see that all of the layers are preserved. Background, body, minute marks. They're in the separate layers that makes it really easy to work with. Let's introduce you to some of the tools that we're going to be using. First is a brush tool. Press B and it'll get you the brush tool. I can draw, and if I want to change brush size, press Control Option, left click on the Mac, Alt, right click on Windows. So when you do that, scroll left and right, you'll change brush size. Up and down will change the hardness. This is a very convenient feature. And when it comes to the opacity, right now it's at 100%. Press 5 and then instantly switch to 50%. Press 2, switch to 20%. 05, switch to 5%. Also very convenient. Next, we're going to talk about transparency. This layer, part of this layer has pixel, and part of the layer is completely empty. When I draw, I can draw from area that has pixel to area that is completely transparent. There is a function, it's called lock transparency. Once I lock the transparency, and you can see I will not be able to draw into the empty area anymore. The lock transparency is a function that I will be using a lot during this demo. So using a mouse to draw, you see that the width is very consistent. The opacity is also very consistent. Using a tablet pen to draw, I can vary the size and also vary the opacity using pressure, which is why we strongly recommend using a tablet for this class. Let's try out the Dodge and Burn tool. Press O will bring you to the Dodge and Burn tool area. We're going to try the Dodge tool first. Let's try Highlight. When I click, you see the area it brightened using the highlight setting. Let's change to midtone. And you can see what it does. Let's change to shadow. And you can see the range of color it affects. Let's try the burn tools. Switch to highlight. Midtone. Shadow. So you can see what area it actually darkened. We're going to use those tools to enhance this drawing. Let's go to body first. And I'm going to use the Dodge and Burn tool. Let's try the Dodge. Let's go to midtone. The opacity, change it to 30%. I'm going to size the brush and then move up. So then I have 0 hardness. Size the brush about this size. Lightly move over this area and you can see how it brightens. I'm going to do the same on the opposite side to give it a little bit of highlight in this area. Also a little bit of highlight in the upper left hand corner and just a little bit of highlight here. Very quick. Let's switch to body 2. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. Decrease the exposure to 10%. Just press 1. Just brighten this part a little bit. Over here, I'm going to also brighten this area a little. Next, let's switch over to the burn tool. 50% exposure is going to be too much. Type 1, also I'm going to use the midtone. Change the brush tip to 0% hardness. Go to body. Darken this area just a touch. Not too much. Over on this side also, just a little bit. Here, darken it just a touch. Moving over to the body 2 layer. Also, change the size, make it really large. And I can darken this area a little bit more. Over here, darken this area just a little bit more also. This kind of a fine tuning is something that is more difficult to do in Illustrator, but very easy to do in Photoshop. Next, we're going to use the brush. Let's go to the hour mark. Expand this. The shadows are on different layers, so you can see the shadow. This mark, this is the top. Activate the top. Lock transparency. Press B goes to the brush. Size this to a very soft 0% hardness. Change the opacity down to about 10%. Just press 1. Glaze over this little by little. And you can see I'm actually turning this hour mark into a little bit three-dimensional object. Let's move on to the next one. Next mark. Also, make sure I lock transparency so I won't paint into the empty area. Move on to the next one. Also, must lock transparency. Next, lock transparency. This is something Photoshop can do so much better and so much quicker. Next, I'm going to add some color to the background. Let's activate the background layer. Add another layer above. Change this to color. Brush. Press Option and pick this color. Change the brush size to a very large size. Since this is going to be a color layer, change the blending, just like in Illustrator, change the blending to color. Glaze over some color into this area. Choose another color by pressing Option. Choose another color. Choose another color. So now I have a wash of color for the background. Add some color onto the body as well. Make sure I lock transparency. Pick up some green. Change the brush size down slightly. Give this edge a little bit of green color. Over here, adding a little bit of green. Pick another color. Red. Adding some red into this area. Pick another color. Adding some of purple in here. So just a little bit light value over here. Let's go to the body. Change the brush blend mode from normal to color. So I can preserve the shading that is already on this layer. So let's go to the body layer. Increase the size 10%. Choose a color. Next, let's add some highlight to make this object appear shiny. So I created a new layer. Bring this up. Label this highlight. Pick white. Change the brush. Coming into the brush area. Decrease the brush and make this very narrow. And the angle, let's give it 90 degree. And you can see what it does to the brush tip. Let's go to 100% and definitely creates a highlight. That's a little bit too narrow. Let's make some adjustment. The roundness is 9. Let's go to 20. That looks pretty good. Next, I'm going to introduce you to a tool. This is the Art Pen from Wacom. This will allow me to rotate the brush tip just like this. Extremely convenient. So I want to put in a highlight here. And simply just rotate until it matches the angle I want, and I can put in a highlight. This whole assignment is using Illustrator for what it can do best, and use Photoshop for what it can do best.